What's going on, everybody? It's your man Louie T here with a brand new installment of the Louie T Network podcast. This one's going to be abbreviated. We're going to get in, we're going to get out, and we're going to get all of the topics that I want to get to today knocked down. So, without any further ado, let's lock in. You're tuned in to the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 490th installment, 10 away from the big 500. Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Been meaning to get this episode out for the last couple of days, but I actually am glad that I waited because we got some news today on some new rule proposals from teams around the league. And normally when these things come out, I'm not too interested. I'm not too invested because normally the rule proposals that come out are ho-humish. You know, they're very specific and they kind of serve a purpose that I don't know if it necessarily benefits the entire league. When you propose rules, it has to benefit the entire league and it has to make sense. And sometimes teams get so caught up in their affairs that they propose things that, you know, make sense for them, but not necessarily for the good of the group. These are rule proposals that I think benefit the entire league. And I think they are very debatable as to whether or not these changes are actually enacted. Oftentimes teams propose things, but they don't, you know, they bring them to vote and you need a lot of votes. I think you need 24 votes. I think you need 3/4 of the league. I think, I'm not sure about that, but you need quite a bit to get a rule pushed through. And usually it's like on a trial basis. And then after that 1 year, after they've tried it out, if everyone feels good about it, you move forward with that rule and it remains, right? So with that said, without any further ado, let's jump right into the proceedings this evening. Let's get to the gem dropping session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up, get you thinking a little bit. So here's the thing on the rule proposals. All right. I'm going to give you the four best ones that I heard come out today, and we'll react to those. I'll give you my thoughts on them. And if you guys have any thoughts, you can start lining them up in the comment section as we'll get to social media maneuvers here in a bit. But I want to start with the Packers one. It's the most obvious one. We've heard that the Packers were going to propose this at the league meeting, so this is not a surprise. But the Packers have put in a rule proposal to ban the tush push. Their reasoning, player safety, and pace of play, right? I remember my buddy, me and him were discussing the tush push because most NFL purists, most of us old man get off our lawn fans hate the tush push. It's not a football play. It's more of a rugby scrum. And, you know, it just doesn't feel like it belongs in the NFL. That said, if they don't ban it, it is what it is. I'm not tripping about it. When it first started, I was like, get this shit out of here. Now it's like, whatever. Don't let the Eagles and teams like the Bills get to 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, right? Easier said than done, I know, but that's just the way it is. Don't let them get to a position where they can utilize that to their advantage. That said, I would like to see this play removed from the league, but if they don't, it is what it is. I'm not tripping anymore. That said, when we played the Eagles in the NFC Championship game and Frankie Louvu had, you know, that like 5 penalty sequence when they threatened to give the Eagles an automatic touchdown, which I did not know you could do. My buddy said, that's the last time we'll see the tush push. That's it. It's out of here after this. That was an embarrassment, and they don't want to see that happen again. And if you want the tush push out, if you're a player, just do that shit. When they get to the 1, just do it. Like, just spam it 15 times. Just do it. right? And so what if they award them a touchdown? They're going to score the shit anyway, unless they fumble the snap, which could happen, obviously. Half the time, the damn Eagles are offsides on this play any damn way. Either they're offsides or the opposition is offsides. It doesn't really matter. It's an unfair advantage one way or the other. But it doesn't matter. The Eagles are going to score. The Bills are going to score more likely than not running that play. So just spam the shit. I mean, if they're at the one, they're going to move the ball an inch every time you do it, right? It's half the distance to the goal. So just keep spamming it and try to time it up, right? Whatever the case may be, that would really make the league have to either ban it or make rules that state that you can't do X, Y, Z. But I think that play in itself really brought light to the tush push and, trying to get it out of the game. I don't know if there's a safety element here. That's just something that's a buzzword that you can use to try to make the NFL feel, obligated to do something about it. But I could see pace of play, being an explanation. But it look, at the end of the day, it's just not an act common to the game. Like, let's go NBA here, right? When they start talking about flagrant fouls and assessing flagrant ones and twos, and they start talking about acts common to the game, that's not an act common to the game, right? Taking another guy and pushing him on his ass or, pushing him up on his back and riding him. Yeah, exactly. Pause. All of that shit, that's not NFL football. Okay. None of that shit are acts, common to the game. So we'll see if it gets banned. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to get banned. I don't. But bravo to the Packers for bringing it to the forefront and seeing what they can get done. Speaking of the Eagles, they have made a proposal. I think this is very interesting. Make the NFL's regular season and overtime as the same as the postseason. Let me say that again. That was a little clunky. Make the NFL's regular season overtime the same as the postseason overtime. So what does that mean? What does that entail? Right now, currently in the regular season and overtime, both teams possess the football only if the team that gets it first doesn't score a touchdown, right? We saw that in the final overtime game of the NFL regular season this year with the Commanders and the Falcons. Commanders won the toss, drove the football the length of the field, scored a touchdown, game over, set, match. Commanders clinch a playoff berth. Falcons essentially not eliminated, but for all intents and purposes, we're pretty much on the outside looking in at that point. And then also in the regular season, overtime periods are only 10 minutes. In the postseason, overtime periods are 15 minutes, and each team possesses the football at least once, no matter what. So if the first team scores a touchdown, the other team is going to get an opportunity to possess the football. And then after that, it becomes sudden death. That's the Patrick Mahomes rule that was instituted when Brady and the Patriots beat the Chiefs in Mahomes' first trip to the AFC Championship game. He never got to touch it. That started the conversation. Then when the Bills lost to Mahomes and company the year that the Bills had them beat, Mahomes and them completed the 13-second drive that got him in the field goal range and kicked the field goal to send it overtime, won the toss, drove it down the field, scored a touchdown. Bills never saw the football. That pushed it over the top and made it a rule that in overtime, in the postseason, both teams have to touch the football no matter what. So I actually don't hate this proposal from the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not necessarily hung up on both teams' possession of football. My thing is stop them, right? If you lose the toss and you want to win the game, don't let them score a touchdown. It's as simple as that, right? You can hold them to a field goal. You'll get the football. You get a stop, you'll get the football. You force a defensive turnover, you get the football, right? So I don't have an issue with that in the regular season. What I do have an issue with in the regular season is overtime periods being 10 minutes. Don't come at me with this bullshit excuse, which is what they used to change the rule in the first place of, oh, player safety. 5 more minutes isn't going to kill anyone, says the guy who's not actually playing in the game. But I've seen overtime periods where one team possessed the football for 8-9 minutes of the overtime period. And shit, what does that leave the other team if they only gave up a field goal, right? Like, I get it. Don't let them have an 8-minute drive to start overtime. Easier said than done. That's bullshit. That's not, to me, the spirit of overtime. It's another quarter, right? Play another full quarter. Give me 15 minutes so that no matter what the team who possesses the ball first does, if they don't score a touchdown, I'm going to have ample time to respond. When the Commanders beat the Falcons, for instance, and since we used that example just now, they scored that touchdown with under 3 minutes to go in overtime. Like, had they had to settle for a field goal, the Falcons would have literally had less than 3 minutes to go the length of the field to answer what the Commanders had just done. Like, that's bullshit. I've seen games where a team has literally ate up 8 and some change of the overtime clock, but they ultimately scored a touchdown. But had they kicked a field goal, or had they had to go for it on fourth down or something crazy, and they didn't win the game at that point, the other team would have had literally no time to respond. Where's the psychological sense in that? That doesn't make any sense to me. So I don't necessarily care about both teams possessing the football in overtime in the regular season. That doesn't really appeal to me. If you want to win the game and you don't win the coin toss, get a stop, right? But the period should be 15 minutes. I've always said that. I'm going to continue to say that. It doesn't make sense that it's only 10 minutes in the regular season. It needs to be 15 like it used to be. And so for that reason, if I can't separate the two reasons, right, if I can't separate them and I have to take both of them in order to get this rule change, I'd be willing to do it just for the 15-minute portion of this rule. I really don't care about both teams possessing the football. You're just making the game longer unnecessarily, if you ask me. If a team is able to score a touchdown on the opening possession, they should win the game in regular season play. Okay? I have no issues with that. I would love to see overtime extended to 15 minutes. A normal period of play in the NFL is 15 minutes. I would love to see them extend the overtime in the regular season to 15 minutes. So I think that's a really good proposal by the Philadelphia Eagles. And then we got 2 by the Detroit Lions. So the first of which, I love this one. This has been a long-standing debate amongst football purists, people like myself, and I've heard ex-players who play the game who hate this rule. I do with a passion as well. There's nothing worse than a team, being forced into a 3rd and 17, and then there's defensive holding or hands to the face penalty, and that carries an automatic first down. So the Lions are proposing remove the automatic first down for defensive holding. There's nothing worse than 3rd and 18 and there's a defensive holding and it's a 5-yard penalty, but it carries an automatic first down. That's bullshit. It should just be a 5-yard penalty, just like offsides. And now it should be 3rd and 13. That team gets another opportunity to run that 3rd down over again if they did not successfully pick up the yardage, right? That's what a holding penalty, that should not constitute an automatic first down. Now, the argument against it, if you're playing devil's advocate, is what's stopping me from getting beat on 3rd and 18 and just holding a guy and taking a 5-yard penalty, right? I get that, right? The penalty needs to be severe in order to deter defenders, because if a defender knows, like just in college football, this is why pass interference in the NFL isn't like in college. And I vehemently disagree with the collegiate rule, but I get it because it's college. You can't bring that rule to the NFL because NFL corners are too savvy. If you tell them, hey, I'm finna get beat for this 55-yard touchdown or this 60-yard gain down to the 12-yard line, and all I got to do is tackle this dude and it's only a 15-yard penalty, what the hell do you think this NFL corner is going to do? Hey, you're going down here, bro. You're not catching this football. If I'm out of position and I'm beat and this is about to be a 68-yard gain, I'm tackling your ass. You're not even getting a chance to catch this. You can throw the flag. 15 yards isn't going to hurt us. 68 will, right? That's why in the NFL, it's a spot foul, because you got to pay for that sin. You can't just be out here tackling folks and pushing dudes out of the way because it's only 15-yard penalty. I understand that side of the coin, right? That you want to make sure that defenders don't abuse the rule, but it sucks on 3rd and forever that a 5-yard infraction can equal a first down. That's crazy. It could be 3rd and 24, which is literally a quarter of the field, and a 5-yard holding penalty by a defender on the opposite side of the field where the ball was thrown is enough to warrant a first down. That is insanity. But I get both sides of the argument. I've long said that that shouldn't be the case, that you should be able to get an automatic first down. But again, I don't know if they're going to change that rule because of what I just said. Literally, you could see defensive players abusing that rule if that were the case, right? So we'll see. And then the Lions made another proposal. This has been another conversation that has been debated for quite some time. Lions proposed that teams with the best record secure the #1 seed and a bye week in the postseason. So that stays the same. Meanwhile, seeds 2 through 7 are ordered strictly by record. So last year, so again, all of the division winners get in still. And this has been a conversation because, last year in particular, you had a situation where the Lions and the Vikings literally battled it out for the right to be the #1 seed in the NFC in week 18. Winner took all, the loser went to the 5th seed, right? So that meant that there was a 14-win team on the road last year in the Minnesota Vikings playing a Rams team who mailed it in week 18 and I think only won 10 games, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't play Matthew Stafford, didn't play any of their starters, didn't give a shit about seeding, knew they were going to get a home playoff game, so they didn't give a shit. And so you're benefiting a team who didn't give a shit in week 18, who didn't win 14 games, and allowing them to play a home playoff game. Meanwhile, a team that won 14 games during the regular season has to travel on the road. Make it make sense, right? I mean, in this instance, in this scenario, the Commanders, who won 12 games, would have had a home playoff game last year. They would have hosted the Green Bay Packers. Packers would have been the 5th seed. Commanders would have been the 4th seed. Vikings would have been the 3 seed. They would have been hosting the 6-seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the 2-seeded Philadelphia Eagles would have been hosting the 7th-seeded. I forgot who the 7th seed would have been. Rams. I think it would have been the Rams. Yeah, it was the Rams. They would have been the 7th seed. So I actually like that scenario. I like that proposal, but again, this is not the first team to propose this. And the same reason that it's been shot down many times before, and I think it's going to get shot down again, is owners love winning the division and getting that extra home playoff game, getting that extra home game. And the argument has always been for the detractors of changing the rule is that, well, where's the significance of winning your division? Where do you get the boost from winning the division, right? We don't want to minimize winning the division. It's a big deal, and that should come with a home playoff game. And the people that are pushing back against that are saying, you're winning the division, your reward is a playoff berth, an automatic berth to the postseason. That's your reward. You want something more than that, keep winning games, right? And I also love this because it shuts down, the idea of teams like the Rams last year who knew they couldn't fall any further than 4th, right? Because they already won their division. We're going to get a home playoff game, so we don't need to play Matthew Stafford in the final week of the season. And it shuts down teams from doing that, right? If you want to shut your guys down and you don't mind dropping all the way from 4 down to 7 because it's so tight between those 4 teams, you got to play your guys all the way through to the finish line, unless it's already set and you can't move any further than 6 or 7. And you're like, 6 or 7 doesn't make me one bit of difference. But if you got a chance to play a home playoff game as a 4 seed and a loss would drop you to 6, or you're going to play your ass off in that week, 18 matchup to try to make sure you get that home playoff game. I think it would make for more competitive teams in week 18. Instead of seeing teams who've already clinched, who don't have anything to play for, saying, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm going to pass on week 18." So I love it, but we've seen this before, and I don't think it's going to get passed through. But it is an interesting debate nonetheless. I actually like all four of those rule proposals. Um, if you ask me, I don't think any of them are actually going to get passed, to be honest with you. The NFL is, they're a stickler for keeping things the same unless there's some sort of financial benefit tied to it, right? A lot of times when they change things, it has something to do with like safety, right? That's why the tush push, I could see them erring on the side of, but there's no, I doubt that there's any statistical data that states that tush push has more injuries occur during that play than any other play in the league. Like, you can't just say, well, this has, injury, um, this has, injury consequences without, statistical data. Um, I think that's a cop out, but I would like to see them, consider all four of these. We'll keep tabs on these to see what they ultimately decide to do. I don't think they're going to change any of them, to be honest with you. But I digress. All right, let's transition to our next segment, and that's social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. Y'all know what it is. If you're out there, you want your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent, you know what to do. Use the super chat function, and that will ensure that your comment is read and you jump straight to the front of the line. As we do not have a ton of time today, so I can't ensure that we will get to your comment, but you are free to use the hashtag LouieTLive. And if time permits and your comment is pertinent, we will read it on the air and react to it. So just want to knock down a few items, and then we'll get to the comment section and maybe get to one or two comments if we can. So the first, Brandon Graham retires. Two-time Super Bowl champion defensive lineman Brandon Graham, who made one of the biggest plays in Philadelphia Eagles history when he sacked Tom Brady and forced a fumble. What are we talking about? 8 years ago, maybe, I think it was. What Super Bowl are we on? 50. We just had 59, so that had to be 51, I think, 51 or 52. Big play led to the Eagles winning their first Super Bowl in franchise history. He retires. Remember, he got injured last year, started a little bit of a controversy with his comments regarding A.J. Brown and quarterback Jalen Hurts, then retracted and backtracked those statements, then ended up coming back to play in the Super Bowl and got his second Lombardi. So he's going to hang it up, I think, after 15 years, if I'm not mistaken. It was a long career, very successful one. Congratulations to Brandon Graham on a stellar NFL career. Derek Stingley Jr. signs a 3-year, $90 million extension with the Houston Texans, making him the highest paid NFL corner in league history. His deal now looks like this: 5 years, $113 million. When you add in the 2 years, $23 million he had remaining on his rookie contract. So Stingley Jr., who I think is the best corner in football, there's a real debate between he and PS2. I think they actually came out in the same draft, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe PS2 came out 1 year before he did. I felt like they were in the same draft. I was a big PS2 guy. I think PS2 might have came out a year earlier. But whatever the case may be, I like Derek Stingley Jr. and apparently the Texans do as well, and they just make him the highest paid corner. Sticking with news since the last time that we spoke, the Bengals lock up T. Higgins and wide receiver Jamar Chase. So they go for the 2-for-1 special, lock up both receivers. So they choose offense over defense. A lot of people have been making a big deal of them holding on to both of these receivers, paying both of them while they're also paying Joe Burrow. And yes, the defense was atrocious last year, but this is the route that they've chosen to take. And again, a lot of this has to do with Joe Burrow's wishes, right? When your star quarterback says that I want to keep the group together, you try your damnedest to make that happen because you want to keep him happy. And, they know the value of T. Higgins. And so Higgins signs a 4-year, $115 million contract. And Jamar Chase is extended 4 years, $115 million. So wait, that can't be right. He didn't sign for 115 milli. It's got to be more than that. Let's see. Let's see what Jamar Chase's number was. Jamar Chase's number. The guy was just moving too fast. There's no way they got the same amount. Let's see. Okay. Jamar Chase is 161 million. That's the number. Okay, I was like, that's not, the math ain't math in here because I know he was over $40 million a year with his extension. So 161 million for Jamar Chase, which equals out to $40.25 million per year AAV. Meanwhile, Higgins ends up being $28.75 million. And you know what's crazy is Higgins, like that's a good deal for him, and that's like real market value, like where he's supposed to be. But had he hit free agency, he would have made way more than that. And that's a trend we're seeing with some of these receivers, like the Bucks wide receiver Chris Godwin signed with the Bucks on a 3-year, $66 million deal, if I'm not mistaken. That's 22 a year. If Chris Godwin had hit the open market, he would have gotten damn near 30. Okay. He would have gotten anywhere from 25 to 27, maybe even 28 million a year, just out of the sheer scarcity in the free agent market at the receiver position. And this is not a great receiver draft either. T. Higgins would have made over 30 million. He would have made north of 30 million. So for him to take 28.75, that's more of a, I want to be here, right? I want to be here. I want to stay in Cincinnati. And I'm willing to I'm not saying take less, because honestly, that's where he belongs. When you look at where he ranks among receivers in this league and you look at what the other guys are being paid, that's where he should be. But where you should be and what you actually get are two different things. So kudos to him for taking like it feels a lot like what Devontae Smith did with the Eagles, right? He could have gotten a lot more money. He took less to stay in Philadelphia and kind of make it make sense for the team, right? That's kind of what T. Higgins did here, right? Good for him getting in the long-term deal. Good for Chase getting the extension. And now we'll see if the Bengals can win with this setup. And this is going to be heavily scrutinized. If they are unsuccessful with this group, the way it's constructed, with the amount of money they've spent on just 3 players on the offensive side of the football, 2 at the same position, and the defense continues to struggle, this will be under a microscope. And they will be absolutely crucified for this if it does not work. But when you got one of them ones at quarterback, if you can keep him upright and he can deliver the football, they've got a chance as long as T. Higgins and Chase both stay healthy. All 3 of them really stay healthy. Cooper Kupp stays at home. He's back home, rather, in the Pacific Northwest. He was at Eastern Washington in his collegiate career. He's now a member of the Seattle Seahawks on a 3-year, $45 million deal. The hang-up with Cooper Kupp once he was released was how much he wanted to be paid. Not many teams were willing to give Cooper Kupp $15 million a year. Seattle was one of the few. That's why he ended up there. Plus, I told you, I didn't think he wanted to come east, to be honest with you. And you get an opportunity to go home, and they're going to pay you the money you're looking for. It's a win-win all the way around for Cooper Kupp. we'll see if he's washed. A lot of people, including myself, felt like his best football was behind him. The Rams offense kind of predicated to his skill set. We'll see what he's got left. They moved on from DK Metcalf, didn't want to pay him the massive deal he ended up getting with the Steelers on the extension after the trade. So they go a lot cheaper in Cooper Kupp, and we'll see if it benefits them. He'll pair with Jackson Smith and Jigba in Seattle to see. And remember, they also moved on from Tyler Lockett, who has still not found a new home. So it's going to look a lot different in Seattle this year at the receiver position, as Cooper Kupp is now a Seahawk. And then speaking of Seahawks, or former Seahawks, Russell Wilson still undecided as to where he will play football next season. Same could be said for Aaron Rodgers. So the two biggest quarterback dominoes left to fall, still out there hovering around. And Rodgers and his camp have come out and said that he's slow playing this. He's going to take his precious time figuring out what's going to be next for him. I mean, the options aren't great that exist. I get it. I mean, they're not, the Browns, I think if they get the right quarterback, the Browns could be a dangerous team. But I don't know if either one of them, it'd be more so Rodgers, if you ask me, than it would be Russell Wilson. I mean, they saw Russell Wilson up close last season. Nothing that he did last season makes me feel like, oh, he's a difference maker. But it's a stark contrast to the guys they had in the lineup last year. If you watch Hard Knocks with the Cleveland Browns, with the AFC North, but if you watch the Browns and their head coach, Kevin Stefanski, he was going through it, man. His quarterback situation was awful, and he was going through it with all of those quarterbacks making mistakes, including Jameis Winston. So I get it. I understand his angst and wanting to get a guy, even if it's Russell Wilson. I understand why he would want to get someone like that. At least Russell doesn't turn it over a ton. So it'll give you a chance with, a quality run game, the defense that they're able to play. It'd give them a fighting shot, but I think Rodgers is still your best bet. So the Steelers still have to decide what they're going to do at quarterback. You've still got the Giants out there. The Titans could use a veteran still. And then the Browns, right? So all of those teams still kind of stuck in limbo, trying to figure out what they're going to do with the quarterback position. Only two quarterback dominoes really left to fall. And then you got the draft. And so really interesting time for teams who need a quarterback. So glad my team is not in that mix. So let's get to the comment section. I'll take one or two comments and then we'll move on and get out of here and get to the close of the show. Jefferson Montenegro, my guy Jefferson, writes, yo, what's good? Do you see us adding any more players of high note? Not really. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if there was still a trade, for the crowd out there that talks about Trey Hendrickson not being able to get a deal now that Jamar Chase and T. Higgins have gotten to the bag. That's the opposite of what that has done. It has actually freed up more space for them to operate and sign Trey Hendrickson to a long-term deal. So it's less likely that Hendrickson gets traded. It's more likely that he signs a long-term deal with Cincinnati. And so I don't see any more players really shaking free at this point. Your roster is pretty much what it is, sans for the draft and anything that may happen after the draft. But if you're talking about prior to the draft, I can't see any more players really of note being added to the mix. Jefferson Montenegro writes, are you surprised that we haven't added any kickers to compete with Gonzalez? No, I'm not, because that to me is a draft thing, right? That to me is more of a, get a kicker late in the draft or an undrafted kicker to come in here and compete. Or if they want a veteran kicker, one may shake free because a lot of times teams hoard kickers. They'll have 2-3 guys going to camp, but they got to cut one. Just like last year, we traded for Cade York because the Browns had like 3 kickers. 2 years ago, the Lions had like 3 kickers. So eventually, kickers will shake free. Veteran ones will come free, and there will be, trust me, there will be some competition. They literally signed Zane Gonzalez to the vet minimum, which means they don't have any long-term ties to him whatsoever. So that tells me that they want to bring in competition, and I fully expect them to do exactly that. Mike Lowry writes, what's the percentage we trade our first round pick? I'm leaning 65. I mean, if the opportunity presents itself, I think it's 100. But again, you need someone else to want to come up. I don't know if this is necessarily the draft for that. Then secondly, the players that are on the board at that time have to be less appealing to the Commanders, more appealing to someone behind them. It's 50-50 right now. It's obviously it's hard to say what will happen. The board is going to obviously dictate what the Commanders try to do, and then what teams behind them are interested in doing. What you hope is that a number of players fall, including that third quarterback Jackson Dart, and that would necessitate a team wanting to come up, maybe get the 5th-year option on Jackson Dart or some other player that intrigues them that is still on the board that they thought would be gone by that point. But again, we'll see. I'm going to put it at 50% right now. Troy writes, did we save any cap space by restructuring the Debo deal? I don't think so. I'm going to have to double check. I was thinking the same thing, but I don't think they saved any cap space by doing this, because he was, now, again, the money was non-guaranteed, but by week 1, it would have become fully guaranteed, or there would have been a certain point this offseason where that money would have become fully guaranteed, more likely than not week 1. So by restructuring it, you can give him some upfront money and you can cut down the base. I didn't see the particulars. I'm going to go look on Spot Rack and see if it changed how much of this was now base salary, how much of this has been converted to a bonus that he gets up front. I know I saw that it's still 17 million. None of that changed. He can now make up to 20 million in incentives. But what is the breakdown? What is the structure of it? Because if they gave him $8 million for like a roster bonus right now, right? And then they cut his base salary down. Like I know with Andrew Wiley, his base salary is like, I think it's going to be like 1 point something million dollars or whatever. His base was going to be 6.6 million, I think, this year. So they gave him some upfront money, brought that base number down a little bit. So I think that freed up a little bit of cap space. And I would assume that that's what they're doing here with Debo as well, but I can't say for sure. But that's what it feels like, right? Freeing up a little bit more cap space and doing it in a way that doesn't hurt you long term. Literally, you're just doing it for 1 year this year, and you're just moving the money around, like giving it to him now, bringing that cap number down, bringing that base salary down, which will free up some more cap space. So I think, that's a conversation we're going to have with the Commanders Kings tonight. E writes, aiding a ball carrier by pulling him is still legal because it's easy to identify. Ban the tush push. Goes against the core foundation and spirit of American football. That's how I've felt about it the entire time, right? Like that's literally the essence of the tush push. You're taking a guy and you're essentially aiding him in getting a first down. Like he's not doing it on his own. Like I know we have plays that turn into rugby scrums where a running back is running, he's 7 yards up the field and he's trying to drag tacklers, and here comes an offensive lineman that's pushing him and it turns into this rugby scrum. That this isn't the same as that though, right? Like that's a whole different dynamic, right? This play literally, guy goes into a pile, guy comes from behind him, and another guy comes and they're just literally thrusting him forward, right? Again, that's not the essence of what that play is supposed to be. But again, you could argue it both ways. You can argue it both ways. I agree with you. I don't think the play should be legal, but we'll see what they ultimately decide to do. Mr. HTTR, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Mr. HTTR writes, what's up, Lou? What's up, Mr. HTTR? He says, do you feel Deshaun Watson is completely washed? I don't. I don't think he really fell off like that. What system can you see him in? I do think he's washed. I do think he's a shell of himself. He's lost all of his confidence. He's going to have to go to a place where the scheme absolutely fits him to a T, and then he's going to have to play well in that system. Like, he doesn't even look like the same guy right now. He looks lost. He looks confused, disheveled, and he looks like a guy lacking confidence. So until I see that confidence back, he's washed in my estimation. Um, I always knew since Cleveland was a bad fit for him because they run a pro style offense, and Deshaun Watson is more of like a Chip Kelly who is in Vegas right now. He would fit well in, I think, an offense run by um, Cliff Kingsbury, something that's closer towards, a college spread offense where you're spreading teams out and he's in the gun constantly. Like, this Cleveland offense requires him to be under center. That's not his game. If you watched him in Houston, he was a gun quarterback. That was where he excelled. He got to make plays off schedule. That's not how the Cleveland offense is set up. So I knew he was going to struggle. Like, the NFL is all about system fits, and he never fit in that system. So we'll see, but it's going to be a long road back for him with all the injuries. And now, people just don't see him in that same light anymore. That will go down as one of the worst trades in NFL history and one of the worst contracts ever handed out. Shadow Striker 789 writes, I'm fine with the tush push. Just monitor offsides. If the play stays, defense needs to be able to mirror the offensive lineup without penalty. Again, I hate the play, but if they keep it, it's hard to monitor offsides on that play. Like, everybody's so close to the damn football, and the Eagles are moving before the ball even gets snapped. It's a bad play. There's so much that fundamentally goes wrong with that play that they allow to happen, which is why they shouldn't do the play in the first place. But again, I digress. The Blackout B. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Blackout B writes, what it do, Lou? What's going on, Blackout B? Whoever the hell was believing that Aaron Rodgers BS needs to wash their face, and you know the rest, LOL, and get your mind right. I don't know who thought he was going to Minnesota. I'm glad they finally put that to rest today. I don't know what this, like, is JJ McCarthy not healthy or something? I'm confused as to why the Vikings aren't just turning over the keys to this young man and just saying, all right, let's see what you got. If he's not healthy, I get it. But if he's on track to be perfectly fine by the time camp rolls around, I don't understand why we keep having these conversations about veteran quarterbacks in Minnesota. I get it. You won 14 games last year with Sam Darnold, and maybe the young fella isn't ready to step in and keep that kind of energy going. But shit, we got to find out. So I didn't understand it. But Aaron Rodgers isn't the answer in Minnesota. I know that much. And not when you got a young fella like JJ McCarthy sitting there. So I'm glad that was put to rest today. Move forward, and let's see what JJ McCarthy can do. Troy writes, Spot Rec has Debo at 5.2 milli. Not sure if I am reading it correctly. And you're probably reading it absolutely correct. And if that's his new number, then obviously that number has been reduced significantly. And they've put themselves in a position cap-wise, I think, to net themselves over $10 million of savings with them restructuring it in this manner, right? So, again, I'll take a look at it, but I'm no capologist. But they didn't do this just out of the kindness of their hearts to reward Debo for coming here for a 5th-round pick. That's not why they did it for Andrew Wiley. That's not why they're doing it for Debo Samuel. They're doing it because it benefits the team in some way, shape, or form. And it benefits the player. It's good for all parties involved because they want guaranteed money up front. So you appease the player, all the while freeing up cap space. That's what I think is going on here. And obviously that makes sense for all parties involved. So, all right, let's wrap this thing up with our final segment of the show. And you know what it is. You already know what it is. Garbage time. So, Netflix is returning with season 2 of the quarterback series. So remember, last year they could not find quarterbacks who were interested in doing it. So they went to the receiver well last year, and it was okay. It was cool. It wasn't as good as the quarterback series the year before, but now they've were able to get some quarterbacks to sign up for the show this year, including a returning guy in Kirk Cousins. So the three guys that they have on the show this year are Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, and Jared Goff. I am intrigued by all three, especially Kirk Cousins because he got benched. So I'm dying to see how that whole situation played out and how he handled it. So that is going to be must-see TV there. Jared Goff, I think that's going to be kind of fascinating to see how the season ended for him because, they were riding high, he was playing well, and then their season abruptly ends in the postseason in the divisional round coming off of that bye. So I want to see how he handles that. And then Joe Burrow, I've kind of seen a lot of his season, but I'm interested to see the beginning of the season because we didn't really see that on the Hard Knocks series. They literally picked up from like week 12 or 13. So you didn't really get to see the beginning of the season when they struggled coming out of the gates. So I am going to be fascinated with Joe Burrow's beginning of the season because it was not a great start for the Bengals. Obviously, it was, and they dug themselves a pretty significant hole, and they weren't able to dig themselves out. So Netflix season 2 of Quarterback is going to debut in July, so be on the lookout for that. I'm excited about this as those are three pretty interesting quarterbacks, with the Kirk Cousins situation being really nobody's made more money in the game than Kirk Cousins, man. He continues to kill it. Coming back for seconds on the Netflix. And I'm pretty sure they're paying these guys a nice piece of change to do this as well. So with that said, I'm going to glide to the side and get out of here. I really appreciate y'all joining me for this abbreviated version of the Louie T Network podcast. I told you guys that this would be a quick in and out episode. Obviously, March Madness is kicking off tomorrow, and so you probably won't see me tomorrow for the podcast. I would love to do another podcast, and I may still do one, but I'm going to be locked in. I'm a March Madness fiend, so I'll be watching. Probably fill out a couple brackets. I didn't do any last year. Maybe I'll do some this year. But I'm going to be rooting for my Dukies to go all the way. We are good enough to win a national championship this year. So looking forward to that. But in any event, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. Command Post live tomorrow night. Commanders Kings tonight, 8:30 p on the Commanders Kings channel. So be on the lookout for that as well. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys have a great rest of your evening. God bless and good night.